Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we're doing another film journey. This time, the debut of Paul and Sophie, SP filmmakers, film viewers. I already messed up. So, well, hello.
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 How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, and thank you for having us on your YouTube channel for this talk. I'm very excited to be going through. As British people, we kind of like making lists
And queuing.
I do like the queue. Yeah, as much as I heard it on the train when I was over there. Yeah, it's weird how that word didn't. I mean, I thought about it in terms because I had a series like the movie Q series back in the day, which I didn't like think about it in like terms of lines, like what would come next.
Yeah.
I don't know why that just never until I started watching movies and started did that ever like come across my vocabulary. I guess we just never use that term here in the States, so it just makes sense. So
Is that because you don't queue, or is it just it's a different word?
we just say line probably more or less,
And
which is a
line,
lot less
yeah.
like that's more boring. So it's like, yeah, stand in line, like stand in the queue. Like, oh, well, how do you spell that? It's just a letter Q.
Oh, good question. Yeah.
Q U E U E, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I know I was gonna say welcome. I was gonna say before we jump into this, I was gonna say, do you want to kind of let everyone know kind of what you do on your podcast and your channel?
Up to you.
Yeah. So we are a movie review podcast, which is on like most of the podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all that. So completely audio based, really. But we're called SP Film Viewers, and basically the concept came about when it was like an idea to show my wife Sophie and introduce her to kind of films that I've enjoyed over the years, like some of the classics, and some that aren't so much classics, but I kind of like thought it would be funny to get a reaction from her, and give her like honest opinions and thoughts on those films. And sometimes it's very funny to see how she what she comes out with after seeing the film, but it always makes for a good discussion, and we have a lot of fun just talking just nonsense about like it's all over the place sometimes, but
It is, and sometimes we start at the very end of the film and then go full circle to the beginning.
So we've been going for like I think nearly 4 years now. This is our fourth year into the run with it, but we've got plenty of episodes of all kind of genres and stuff like horror and musicals and action and
yeah,
something for everybody really.
A journey for me, 100%. So you'll notice when we go through deeper and dive of my movie knowledge compared to Paul's, there is a drastic difference, and this is why we did the podcast initially, wasn't it? Because it was quite comical to see me watching films I've never seen. Like, there's so many films I still haven't seen, and you'll be probably mind blown if you ask me, and I'll be like, blank face, I don't know what that is. And Paul's like, okay, let's put it on so then next time you can actually say what you've watched. So I think my version of films is growing into a good appreciation, where it looks very limited at the beginning of the stage.
Well, I mean that's the thing too is I mean like everyone's at such different stages of these things, and I know a lot of people who are like on this platform and also do podcasts and whatnot, and who view these things and listen. We all seem to be the weird ones because we're the ones who have seen a lot of these weird things, and so it's nice to kind of I always love the kind of the journey of things, because I mean there's like I just saw Cleopatra for the first time, which is a classic epic, which it was okay. But there's so many films that a lot of us haven't seen, and I've never, luckily when it comes to movies, I am much more of a very open book, like, oh yeah, you'll get to that eventually. But when it comes to music, that's when I become a jerk. So, but anyway, well, I was going to say recently on your podcast, you've been talking about anime, right? And animated films. Yeah, I was going to say I really liked Grave of the Fireflies. Man, what a film.
Oh yeah, what a film indeed. Yeah.
My anime knowledge though is mainly Studio Ghibli kind of orientated, which it is
nicer one,
but it's the nice ones like my neighbor's Totoro or Ponyo. So when we kind of covered this one, I was like, oh my god, I've not seen this versions of anime before. I was expecting all fluffy, happy.
It's like, no, you get Grave of the Fireflies, Princess Mononoke, you get all the brutal stuff. So
But no, I think this is the first time we've done it. It's anime and it's Anna May in May. So Paul thought of it.
Yeah.
And it's something we're going to be doing probably for a while, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm thinking even next May now that we're going to jump back on, because there's still things that we haven't covered that we still want to watch.
Yeah, or just ones that we have seen and thinking people should check out. We kind of, the way we do our shows, we kind of vary up to like now more so it's like a on off, like every other week is one that Sophie hasn't seen, and then something we both haven't seen, because like you were saying about before, Nathan, about like some like classic like Kill Cleopatra, and there's things on my shelf that I've thought in, or like I want to see that. Like I still haven't seen Citizen Kane. Obviously, that's like heralded as one of the greatest films of all time. But it's like I'll get around to that at some point, type of thing. But it's something I want to cover and see. Like, is it the greatest film ever made, type of thing? And I just feel like that will make for a good for a good episode. I feel like to be like, yeah, well, that was pretty disappointing. But yeah, no. So we're having a lot of fun with the stuff, the things we've been kind of covering. Week before was Suzume, which was like a new one from Makoto Shinkai, which if you've seen Your Name or Weathering with You, that's the director of that, and those films are phenomenal. And that one as well. So it's like knocked out of the park once again, and it's really enjoyable seeing these things. And that was a cinema experience as well. So it's like good to get out rather than it's great having on the TV and everything, but the opportunity to see something like that on in a big screen with a whole bunch of people who really enjoy it as well was nice as well. So it was a really great experience.
Yeah. I actually watched Your Name. Well, no, actually, it was Weathering with You that I saw in theaters, like very much like that, where it was like a specific screening. It was like I think it was just only there for a couple of days, but everyone showed up. And loved it. But yeah, there's nothing like that, especially when it comes to those special events, because I don't really feel like anime films aren't really shown unless it's maybe Dragon Ball, like which I'm for as well, because I love those movies and that show, even though it's not super deep. So but yeah, it's interesting. I like the theme. In fact, I'm doing my own theme right now with martial arts. So, but everyone has their own thing that they want to do in terms of how they want to watch movies, and I love that. And like I love that everyone has their own because I want to focus on this right now because I'm interested in this. So
yeah, you just have like an impulse to watch certain things. Like about the past couple of weekends or weekdays rather, just watching by myself, because I always want Sophie to see what I'm watching, especially if it's something I haven't seen for the first time, and it's like
you kind of vet it, don't you?
But a couple of films I've been rewatching is one I've seen for the first time is Lahain.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And I rewatched I don't know, maybe for the fourth time now, Belle de Jour.
Oh yeah, I still have not seen that. I have it on my shelf. I think I got it in the last Criterion sale that happened. So I've heard good things.
Yeah, I'd recommend that. Yeah, it's something that I keep coming back to. I've had it since, well, I think my uncle gave it as a DVD, and then I've had like various iterations of it on the Blu-ray. I haven't got the Criterion, but it's the Studio Canal or the Vintage World Cinema one. Is like a 4K master of it, and I compared it to the old one I had, and it's like, yep, there's definitely a difference in that. And it's like, it's nice when you get those films that you really like, and you get like a high quality version of it. It's like, yeah, this is the definitive one for now. And I'm sure if there's ever actually a true 4K of it, I will probably get that one as well. So yeah,
the never ending journey.
Yeah, of upgrading is the discs. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say that's I love that you've had a movie like that where you've followed that path where it's like, I'm going to keep upgrading this as much as I can when it's available. But I'm sure we'll get into that actually as we go through this whole thing. But I always like to start off with my first question, which usually involves like, what are both of your earliest movie memories that you remember?
Yep. How are we wanting to do this? Are you wanting to go first?
They're all, if you want to start.
My list is a lot shorter, so I might as well go first. So I'm a 90s baby, so anything like a VHS is probably my first kind of encounter. I can't remember the first time I went to the cinema and what I saw. You're a little bit better at this than me. So mine are typical girl themes. You're going to see this throughout until probably my teens. So my favourite films were Beauty and the Beast. That was my first. I absolutely loved that film. It was just, I don't know, I think the way the Beast was depicted as well within it. I had a thing where I absolutely love horses. So I was that little girl, like, I don't know if you've seen Bob's Burgers, like Tina.
Yeah, no, I have.
Yeah, I had every little My Little Pony that you could get. So obviously Philippe was the horse. Swan Princess. I don't know if you
know. I do. Yeah, I
do
know.
You?
Yep.
So yeah, we did actually. He ruined it for me a little bit. We rewatched it, and obviously when you're little,
yeah,
I don't know.
Different.
It is really different, and I was like, I don't know why I really love this so much.
There was a lot of songs in it, wasn't it?
It's giving me a flashback of The Sword and the Stone. That is exactly that experience for me. I watched it, I don't know, like when I was in my early 20s, but I had watched it as a kid, and it's just a bunch of songs. It's not really anything else. So
I was really disappointed with it. I was like, why did I like this? Then Pocahontas. I mean, you can see a theme going with kind of some princesses being a bit damsel in distress, but like even Belle, she's quite book smart. She's not just a typical Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty that needs help. Then you've got, what was my other ones? Oh, I always call it this. I feel like it should be called, the film should be called Johnny Five, but it's Short Circuit.
Oh, so yeah.
The equivalent of like kind of the rip-off Wall-E. That's how I see it. Yeah. And The Fox and the Hound, so more.
That was quite dark.
Yeah.
Which I think it was only a few years ago you introduced that, and it's like, yeah, I can see why it's kind of like upsetting, because it's the implications of what some of early Disney stuff was.
Yeah, but it's not like with my Disney stuff, it's never the cliche kind of typical Disney that that kind of sells out. It's the ones that are kind of not as well known nowadays. But yeah, that would be probably my earliest memories. Not very collective.
Yeah. Did you because I think the cases were different in the UK. Did you have clamshells, or was it like kind of a clear case?
It was like it was a clear case. I don't think it was the clamshell design as such, but it kind of like it really, obviously they were really bulky anyway, but they kind of folded out, but they definitely had like a clear casing, as I remember. Yeah. I don't have any examples of VHSs anymore, to be honest. But for me, my earliest memories, very big into dinosaurs. So obviously when Jurassic Park rolled around in '93, I didn't see it at the cinema though, but when it eventually came out on VHS, and obviously the big boom after the fact, I think I had some of like the book adaptations of it, with the pictures and everything, and all the kind of some of the merchandise. I was really big into that, so that was a big impact on me, and it still is. It is one of my favorite films of all time. And cinema wise, I feel like I've got a strong feeling that I like Lion King was one of the ones that I remember to go and seeing, and I definitely remember going to see like Space Jam and Babe as well. The very first one was Babe. Yeah.
John listened, Babe was on there. That really chuckled me because I just didn't imagine you watching Babe. Right. I don't know. It just made me laugh at a younger Paul watching it.
You gotta let that pig grow,
I feel like Babe made me cry.
I think it was kind of sad. I have not seen it in such a long time, though, to be fair. But I think it was just like talking animals. It just seemed appealing. I don't know. My friend went, like my friend from school, and took us to the cinema to see it. I remember that. So, and then things like obviously other things that I had from like VHS. I wish I kind of still had the actual original case for this, but another favorite film of mine is like The Dark Crystal, and that's something my mum introduced me to, which a young age, obviously, some I've seen like other YouTubers talk about and like that traumatized them in terms of the scariness levels of what that film offers. But I wasn't that phased by it actually. I was just fascinated. But it's not like a pre Lord of the Rings for me, because that's something that I really like in the elder years and everything still going strong. But that one, just everything, I think, all like the creature designs and the puppetry and that really stood out to me, even though it was like on obviously a VHS copy and you were struggling to make it out a little bit with like what was there. But again, that's another film I've upgraded as I've gone along, and every iteration I've kind of gone through with that. So, but I always enjoy that, and that's kind of stuck with me as being like a memory that the mum. I think it was also this with Space Jam as well. I mean, mum took me to see it at the cinema. She liked the Harlem Globetrotters. No, it's not Chicago Bulls, but the basketball thing. I'm not a big sports guy either, but I do like the I think it was just the basketball hype with Michael Jordan as well was just something that really just grabbed me.
And it had the Looney Tunes in.
So, yeah, so. That's why I'm really big on Looney Tunes. Personally like animation, so yeah.
Well, I'm still a big fan of Space Jam. In fact, I'm a basketball fan, so double whammy. I know.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But we won't talk sports. Promise. we'll just talk Space Jam. It's a good combination.
That's fine. I really like Space Jam. It's one of my like guilty pleasures, I suppose. But
I don't even feel like that should be a guilty pleasure. I feel like that's fine to like.
It's fun. Yeah. If anything, it's a fun movie. You know, it's got heart. It's also got good animation, and like it's got good gags. So
yeah, it really does.
And anytime there's a bit like that's usually like I'm a fan of that. That's why I like Charlie Chaplin and things like that, or even like the Pythons. So it's always about bits. I always love bits. So but yeah, I was gonna say, going back to those days, the VHSs and theater experiences. Did you both have? I was gonna say, tell me kind of about like how you got like exposed to movies, I guess, or at least how like kind of you both kind of fell in love with this thing, or was it early on, or was it kind of a little bit later that you kind of discovered a lot of this stuff?
I think for me, it was probably a little bit later on. I think obviously we all kind of grew up with television and stuff, and just like the easier access to home video being a thing that was more common. But for me, I obviously a lot of like the earliest stuff that I like, my parents had like video cassettes of as well, of like being intrigued by like cases, like I remember like The Silence of the Lambs being one. We did an episode of it not too long ago for watching it for the first time, but I remember like, what's this intriguing poster with obviously the moth that's on Jodie Foster's face or whatever. And also things like The Exorcist. I was like, there's nothing that doesn't give much away. It was like, what's this about? But obviously it says 18, right? And thinking, what's so intriguing. And I remember obviously when I was then a little younger as well, like going to like video shops when my dad would be looking at like CDs or music section, I'd be going to the video section and looking at all these weird, wonderful cases, like especially the horror ones, which are not really supposed to be going into that section, but looking at all the intriguing cases and like, I don't know what this is about, but it looks, from just the little snapshots on the cover or the back of the case, was all like kind of really scary and like, building stuff up in your head that's probably looks a lot scarier than it actually is. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about, and like a flashback of that.
Too effective, those covers.
Yeah. Seldom.
I think for me it was more, my family we used to like go to Blockbusters every like weekend, but the films we would be picking would be technically like either a comedy or a rom-com. We were like really stuck within that genre for a long time, and I think this is where I get a hate for Adam Sandler, because it's like Never Been Kissed, or you'd have Waterboy or Wedding Singer. Yeah, and
the things your dad liked.
And this is just what we would kind of put on. And I think it wasn't we had a really silo kind of couple of years in my teens where I just didn't watch films really. And I think it was more when you kind of came back, when we started first dating, that we started going back into films. because I was like, I'm just not enjoying any of the films I'm watching anymore. It was just the same old thing. Once you've seen one, it's kind of similar sometimes, especially within the genres if you just pinholed in.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that's what makes this whole journey thing that we're doing now is what makes it interesting is I feel like we never stop now. Nah. Because if you get pigeonholed, like you know, you can go from month to month to be looking at different things. So I just watched a lot of Bergman, like in the beginning of the year. I'm like, I don't want to be depressed all year, so I'm gonna watch. So I'm gonna watch some martial arts movies now, and yeah. So I love the moods. I like the change. Well, I was gonna say, speaking of kind of your relationship, when that started, was there like any early films, Paul, that you were like thinking about? Like, it's like, okay, what can I show Sophie?
Do you mean in terms of the when we started the podcast, or do you mean like very just in the early times of a relationship?
The early times, yeah. Like,
okay, yes,
I straight away know what this is. I've never so once I met Paul, I'd never seen Lord of the Rings. Never seen it. I remember going to your house and we were sat on computer chairs in his room watching Lord of the Rings, and I feel like they were so long, but I love them now. But initially, when your attention span isn't there and you don't know the characters, you haven't got the love, obviously, for like
that mum as well. Yeah, that was
it was on your mum's side, wasn't it? But I think that was like courting days. Like I think of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and one of the other instances I remember that was when we first started it was when we went to the first film we went to see at the cinema, which was Gangster Squad. And I think it was just I had a bit of a crush on Emma Stone. I guess I still kind of do.
Yeah, it was his first date, like actually going to the cinema. Actually, I think no, it was a proper first date, and he was like sending me films to watch. And obviously, with my background, I was like, I don't really know what I want to watch. There was another one that was very scary, and I was like, nope, vetoed that completely. I was like, no watching that. And I didn't actually know you had a crush on Emma Stone at this point either. And she looked so glamorous in Gangster Squad. She did.
Style, but looking back on that, when we did an episode not too long ago, it was like it wasn't as good as I remember, but at the time it felt like it was like one of those like, oh, this is so amazing. Obviously, like that playing the LA Noir games and that kind of vibe. I think that's where my head was at with wanting to go see it. So like a film adaptation of that, I guess.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling in it.
Yeah. So you had a bit of like, I think.
Yeah, in my younger youth, yes, I would have been definitely happy with that.
Well, I mean, like that's the reason I'm going to Barbie, right? So, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a draw, so I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one we did, I remember do vividly when you were, I think it was Emma Stone was in that as well. But we've yet to look back on that one. But it was Birdman. I forgot the name of the director. Actually, it was a long time.
I remember.
That's the one. Where
I hated that.
Where it's all like in one, or supposedly all in one take type of thing. But obviously, I think there was some trickery with that. But I think that was one of the things that intrigued me about reading about it in magazines and stuff. But yeah, I remember you not being too keen on it, but tastes might have changed now. So.
Yeah, I think it went over my head. Whatever it was doing, it literally wasn't. I don't think I was in it. I just remember being a lot of drumming. Like there was a lot of drums, and that's all I can remember.
Yeah, it's super spastic. I mean, and yeah, I was gonna say it's all over the place. Just, I mean, it is like a jazz song. So, like the whole thing. I was gonna make a silly joke where it's like it flew over your head.
It literally did.
Yeah, and then there's the drums, so it's all encompassing. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say those sound like some fun like first memories to spend together. When did it become serious? Like when did like the we can say the relationship, but we can also talk about like the movies in terms of like it's like, okay, well now we're going to cross a threshold where we're going to watch certain things. I guess it might have also probably developed eventually into what you guys are doing now, right? How did that all come about, I guess?
I'm trying to think of like things that we kind of got into in. I think a lot of it was probably shared out love of animation films, really.
100%. And I think I then was like, right, I've watched Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and Paul still hasn't finished Harry Potter, and this was a serious like deal breaker for me because it was like I've sat and watched how many hours, and so we're still now kind of still haven't watched the last one, which is like, come on, we need to do this now. But also with the podcast, I think that's when it definitely ramped up.
Yeah, it's opened up to a lot of things that, like things to revisit, especially, and also how you haven't seen. So I remember there's in one of the episodes like where we talk about Jaws, and you tell about your experience with the ride in Universal Studios and all that kind of stuff. So you were kind of a bit scarred from that to even watch it. So like to go through that and like kind of get past that point, and obviously like it's known as like one of the greatest films ever. I guess also like
the room.
I think to things like one of my like favorite comedies films is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And I guess putting not for no, I think we did on the podcast, but obviously early stages when we were talking about here's something I recommend, see if you like it. You may or may not, because it's like a comedy thing, but when obviously like I'm stuff laughing when I see obviously the opening shot with the coconuts and everything, but so they're like dead face. Like,
I feel like
I get it.
It was kind of like a bit of a buzzkill for you. Like you were like really like, oh, I think she might like this, and we sat down and ready to watch it, and it just started, and I was like, this is just not my humour whatsoever. And I think this is where, depending on what film we were watching, it'd either be I would be not impressed, or I would be 1,000 and billion questions because you'd watched it before me. So I think this is how the podcast came about, because Paul was like, instead of asking you questions, why don't we record you asking questions?
Yeah, after the fact.
Because I used to crack you up so many times with everything. I'm like, well, why did that person do that? And why didn't they just do this instead?
No. Yeah,
did you ask that when you watched Monty Python? I was like, why did that person do that? No rhyme or reason.
I was just like, literally, the coconuts, like you still cracked up about that. We went on a honeymoon to Scotland, and they played it when we went to the Highlands, wasn't it?
Yeah. And the castle where obviously the French outrageous accent.
John Cleese
like
just being John Cleese. Yeah.
So just me listening to that clip, and I'm just there chuckling away to myself, and even though like no visuals, just a clip that they got the announcer on the coach sporad, and it was just funny.
It made me laugh that you thought it was still hilarious when there was no visuals whatsoever.
That's what makes it an endearing film for those who remember it as a child. So
even Jurassic Park, like I actually went on a ride when I was younger in Universal's. I'd never seen the film. My mum said to me it was just going to be a raft, like kind of, you're going on a little raft, you're seeing some dinosaurs, not the fact that you're going through the T-Rex's mouth or anything like that, like, and it's inclines and then you come down. And then obviously Paul's love of Jurassic Park, and I've never seen it, but I've been on the ride in Universal, was like quite iconic, because like you would love to do that.
Yeah. That experience. But
and I hadn't even got the context of the film or nothing.
Like, I think there's dinosaurs in this movie, but I that's all I know.
Yeah. But then we even went to the orchestra and watched it. Jurassic Park.
There was like a live orchestra like a few years ago. And that was a great experience. Obviously, mimicking the John Williams score. That means so much to me, and I kind of get the feels and the chills every time I hear that when I rewatch the film. And it was just such a good experience to have the visuals and then actually like a live instruments accompanying it. It's really great.
Also the rain, because we're in England, and it absolutely peed it down the entire time, which was so apt to the film.
It was around about the time when it started raining in the film, obviously when the T-Rex breaks out of the paddock, and it's like, oh, how apt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a movie you can watch on a rainy day. That is I haven't thought about it in terms of like just obviously what goes on in the movie. So that makes sense. I love when things like that happen because you I hope that there's like, I guess kind of going into my next question that's accompanying that one. Is there any like key moments of you two watching things together where like this is something you just really remember pretty vividly, something like that Jurassic Park experience to where you had that shared memory? Not to be that big.
No, I guess one of the things, obviously, from one in particular is from when the very first film we watched together, and our very first date was watching Love Actually. In we went over to your house, and being really awkward about it, but I feel like it was sort of like around Christmas, so I was thinking, wow, this is a good Christmas film, and you've seen it, you liked it.
Yeah.
And so it was really funny to be these people, really shy, reserved people, just sat on opposite ends of the sofa, just watching these, obviously some of the what you might consider cringy British humour
Yeah.
at times, and now it's like this one we put on every Christmas, and we've kind of grown up and loving it, and we like quoting it and stuff as we're watching it.
It gets so much better every year. I feel like every time we rewatch it, we're like even in better spirits to put it on. It's one of my favourite films and yours, isn't it? It was part of his wedding massively. So like the airport scene where the little boy, I forgot his name.
So,
is running to go and kind of see the girl off, and it's that music, and that's the music I walked down the aisle to. So stuff like that makes it feel very, very special. Like that was our first film, and where we've come from in 10 years that we've been together. From being really, really shy and awkward, like Martin Freeman's character.
I saw myself as him in how he performs or how he acted in that film. Like, when he gets a date and everything, that kind of awkward shy awkwardness about him.
Yeah, so in the most awkward way.
Yeah.
In the most awkward way.
Definitely, yeah.
I love that movie. So that's awesome that you guys get to watch that. Each holiday and to have that. I love that it's like an awkward memory first, and then it eventually is like, okay, this is sweet. Yeah. Well, sorry.
Oh no, sorry. No, I can think of another one. Is very, very recently after we got married and went to Edinburgh. It was like a last minute almost, or like a couple of weeks before. My brother's partner said, "Oh, have you heard of this cinema that's in the centre of Edinburgh City Centre?" And it looks like really old styley one. It's like, oh, that looks really cool. And it happened to be showing the evening that we landed in Edinburgh for the honeymoon, and it was for The Shining. I thought, oh, that would be so perfect for like it's Halloween time.
You're on holiday.
You're on holiday.
You're on holiday.
You got that vibe of like obviously like in the gold room from The Shining. So I think, oh, that'd be nice sitting having like in a bourbon in the glass and everything. And you'd seen it a couple of times with me before that, so you kind of got over.
I was okay.
I was ready. You were ready.
Yeah. But it was such a good. I feel it's a really good experience to like revisit in that sort of surrounding and stuff. And those kind of special events that you kind of it's like few and far between. But when you feel like, right, let's go see such and such at the cinema, it feels like it's worthy of doing that. Like most of these old classic films, I feel like they kind of do that because they know people that will do very well and popular with people. Yeah, and also I think back to how that wasn't the best experience really because of the weather, British weather, of course. But where we went to see Dirty Dancing in like a drive-in. Which I hadn't seen before.
The rain, wasn't it? Because obviously Paul had never seen it before. And me, because I know exactly every beat of the film. But Paul's like, what's actually happened there? Because it literally
wipers on every 2 minutes.
Absolutely chucked it down, didn't it?
Yeah, so I was kind of like squinting through the glass, like I could sort of see what's going on. But
it really is dirty. They had to blur the image, so.
Yeah.
Oh man, I swear I'm not a dad, but I could be. So just in terms of how I say silly jokes. Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, like, I feel like the environment and like the atmosphere of those things do really play a role in kind of like how we remember a lot of these things. So, which is weird to think because, like, I feel like we can just watch movies at home, right? And just, it's not as special.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, I don't want to go on a on a rant there, but yeah, no, I was gonna say, so I guess coming about to where you're at now currently, when did it start becoming more of like like, do you guys, I'm clearly in the background you have the collection, but I was gonna say, when did it become more of like a collection kind of thing to where, like, hey, my love of this thing has become a physical manifestation of what it is?
So I feel like the collection is definitely more Paul-sided than me, 100%.
Yeah.
I think you've always been a little bit of a collectible, and I think that's come from probably your Uncle Terry.
Yeah, my uncle, he's no longer around anymore, but he was a big influence on like the films that he kind of like introduced me to, for instance, sort of the collector side, because he looked at his house and you would think he was quite a hoarder because he had like stacks of books, not just like DVDs, but like just piles and piles of things. He never really like read them or anything like that. I think it was just that, oh, it's cheap, I'll get around to it at some point. But whether he must have read some of them because he had ones in like a special case, like in a behind glass and thing, like those are the really nice ones, editions or whatever. But he'd always go to like these, obviously, like sort of like bargain bins, and some of the things that were like very like, oh, you're very low budget, but some things are like, like I think of like examples of what you would have off the top of my head, but a lot of things that kind of like opened my eyes to things. Maybe like one example was the anime of Metropolis.
Yeah, I remember that.
We've done an episode about that. And I never would have come across something like that had he given me the DVD of that, and there was something special, and I really hold that as in high regard. One of the films I really like, and certainly as an anime standpoint as well, one of my favorites. But so it sort of kind of developed from him really, and like just like looking for ones that were kind of like not too expensive, unless it was something I really heard good things about. Like one of the first, not the best thing for the first ever actual DVD I ever had. I knew nothing about it because a big fan of Jurassic Park, but not knowing how poor it really did in the cinema and everything. But Jurassic Park 3 was my first ever DVD I ever had.
Hey, I just watched it the other night, just to get, because I watched Dominion finally.
And
I am like, I want a better third film. It's not the greatest, but it's much better than that. So, but anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah, no. So, and obviously, as a younger generation of myself, it was like it's okay. It's not what I had the nostalgia for with Lost World and obviously the first one, but looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, it was. But like. It's dinosaurs. It's Jurassic Park 3. I didn't see. I know right knowledge of it's going to the cinema to see it or anything like that. So it's like just take on board with that. And then it's obviously as Blu-ray progressed. I remember the very first one I got of that was The Dark Knight, as my first Blu-ray copy. And so like learning about all these new development technology and the formats and everything, to keeping up with the times with that was really exciting, I suppose, especially if things that I would have maybe come across and not encountered before. It was like drawn to covers of, like, say, like going back to the horror stuff, and like, okay, I'll find out what this is really about now after all this time. Now I'm over the age, legal age to watch it and all that kind of stuff. And I guess it's just progressed further and further as time goes on with the 4Ks, and especially the more the Blu-rays now as well, especially things getting as elusive special editions, like some of those in the background there. And it's like you want the elusiveness, I suppose, of it all. Really is something that really draws to me. It's like, ooh, looks shiny and pretty, kind of.
Yeah. And the fact if it's not easily accessible,
It makes it all more enticing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I've imported certain things from the States, it's like, oh, why can't we have that over here in the UK?
And vice versa.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like you guys in the States seem to, especially like with the covers, I think of like the looking at the shop over here, but the case of the Roadhouse 4K that recently came out from Vinegar Syndrome.
Oh yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have a case like that over here in terms of trying to sell that as a thing. It'd be like, I don't know, it looks so vivid and like just all, stands out really strongly and everything. Whereas cases in the UK are kind of just bland really in terms of what they're trying to sell. And also I find like the when I imported like the cases from the States, they're a lot slimline compared to what the UK cases are. I don't know why it's like why wasting plastic over here.
I don't think that's what it is, Paul. It's like you're wasting my shelf space. That's what it is.
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
a bit. It's a bit, to be fair.
I could get 2 for the one here.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the change from, because like I imagine, because I had some Blu-rays from the UK. It's almost like the same size, just like width wise of a DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Which is which is the opposite of over here, because like you're saying, it's a little slimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's maybe a slight nitpick, but it's just a thing. I think it feels more like it's nice and tidy, I suppose, if it's more, like with how technology is getting smaller. Yeah, so clean. Yeah.
Well, what about you, Sophie? What's your physical media? I know you were talking about VHSs at the beginning, and did it slowly become a bigger issue?
So it kind of has, but it hasn't it? I feel like I glean off Paul. I'm one of those people that's like, oh, I really like this film, and then Paul's somehow miraculously either already got it or he's going to buy it anyways, and I'm like, oh, okay then, and I'm happy. With that. So Paul has, like, where we are at the moment, this is like his workspace / man cave, and he has got all these shelves that are like full with his.
Get there. I think I get this one here, right? That's a new addition to the shelf space.
It is. So I think I'm really bad. I can't even remember the last film I actually bought, but I think that's because you will buy them and I don't have to. It's the perk of being married. That's what it is.
Yeah, the perks. Yeah, I was gonna say that's I like it. Do you know if you had like any gifts in particular that you're a big fan of, like really fond of, I guess?
Gifts.
Oh,
you mean like say like Blu-ray or DVD ones?
Yeah, discs that are like really important to you, that you like were maybe like a gift or something.
I don't think you've ever bought me one as a gift, have you?
No,
you just kind
of. No, I think I remember like I know you like.
That's really important to me, then, is it?
You really like Tarzan, I think.
Oh yes,
that was one of my big gifts.
Well, it's Phil Collins.
I think that's before Disney Plus came around as well, though.
Yeah,
but now it's just easier access to those.
I would say you bought my favourite film in 4K, which wasn't actually a gift, but I was very grateful because that was something I was going to consider doing. And actually, I didn't need to because you jumped it before I did. But I know we've got a section of favourite films, so I don't know if you want me to wait or not.
Yeah, we'll get, I mean, we can segue to that right now, actually. I was going to say, what are some of both your favorite films? I mean, even from like childhood or even like right now, like kind of what's it encompass?
So I'll tell you then. So basically, my favourite film of all time, this is like the highest one, is Singing in the Rain. And daft as it may seem, I think we haven't watched. I think it was a couple of years ago we watched it.
And I'd seen it prior to that,
and I hadn't.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with it. And even in 4K now, it is so stunning.
It looks good.
It looks so good. And it's the colours, it's the singing, it's the dancing, it's the way that it still feels old, but at the same time timeless. And I think I must be an old soul. Like, I would love to be back in that era. For me, it's just clever. And obviously you love it because Paul loves any film that is a film about a film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like if it's that's a sub genre, I suppose. Yeah, films about film is something I really enjoy. So that aspect I really liked. And I thought also she likes singing and dancing.
Yeah,
so you'll probably enjoy this, and it really clicked with you, isn't it? So.
it's the best film ever.
It's up there. I mean, it's my favorite musical, so I completely understand. So
that's what it should do, though. Like, I think this film, it makes you feel good. And I think that's sometimes where I go for a film. So like Paul might like something a little bit more dark and sinister, and I'll be like, I really go on how I feel when I'm watching a film, and I want it to make me feel happy. Normally, that's what I'm wanting, and that's what Singing in the Rain does. It just gives you that good feeling.
Yeah, I love it. So, what about some other films that you?
Yeah, I know that we both we do on back of Singing in the Rain. We both really enjoy like La La Land.
Yeah.
Second favorite musical. So we're 2 for 2.
This is going well.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's amazing. Obviously, it kind of reminds me of when we watched Gangster Squad, because you've still got the 2 main leads within the film. You've got obviously Emma Stone, which does a brilliant performance, and then Ryan Gosling is okay. Singing, it's all right. It's a bit high pitched, but I think I root for Emma on it. But yet again, the colours within that, it's so vibrant. The music, the jazz, which you really like. It's
big on the music as well. But I do quite like, as I've got older appreciation for jazz music as well. Like he's not sort of like, why you don't like jazz? That not his level in the film, but like just that sort of like, it was just really something about it that really speaks to me with that.
I think as well with La La Land, it's kind of comes back to my rom-com seasons where I was like, all I would watch is like The Notebook or something like that, or The Proposal. And this has a romance within it, but with a really good twist, which you don't see coming properly. And I think that's what makes it so special and a bit outstanding, because it's like it doesn't give you that happy ending. It kind of gives you real life.
Yeah,
For all those who haven't seen it, you should go check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'd say I've already mentioned like a couple of other ones that mine. Like The Shining is my favorite film of all time, and then the Jurassic Park is like very close second.
I remember watching The Shining initially, and that woman in the bath, nightmares. Like literally, I'm not very good with horror.
You just see a hand.
Yeah.
Curtain.
So luckily now our new house doesn't have a shower curtain, and I'm so grateful.
All because of The Shining.
Yeah, but the music in The Shining, like yet again, I think that eeriness, just him driving in the countryside, and it's so
just
silent.
That opening shot is just that's so foreboding. It's like sets the tone straight away. Like, I know many other things, but I really there's just something about it. Just I feel like from when I first saw it, again, another thing that I've had, like from my uncle, I probably gave it to me, I imagine, but the cover with Jack Nicholson doing the "Here's Johnny" through on the white cover, but it was so weird because like for the longest time, we don't have there's the UK cut for that, and never for many years not seeing the extended what's called the US cut with the obviously like the skeletons in the lobby and stuff and all the other extended scenes that take place in that. So for the longest time it was like getting hold of that, and now it's on the 4K. That's like the standard version, the standard cut that's part of that. So it's kind of so I could take either way really. For some of those, the extended version is adds something, definitely some bits. I don't really need them too much, but it is what it is. It's a preference, but it doesn't offend me too much for the enjoyment I get out for the rest of the film.
I'd rather a shorter version.
Yeah. Other things like I said, praised before, like Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That's something that's really grown up with from my dad and his sense of humor, and that's rubbed off on me. With that kind of British,
my dad is the one to blame for that, for myself.
Yeah, and more recently, it wasn't like a 10 from the get-go, but American Psycho is something I've really come to appreciate. I think that's maybe just as I've gotten older and just like how stands up people are, like feel like they're of high importance, and obviously then striving to be how they are in the business or whatever factor. But that kind of like the length, he feels like he's stand out and everything, but he's like, well, he's just like a faceless drone. He's just a nobody really at the end of it all. Like that's it, and it's just the way that's all put together and just really intriguing. Again, never saw it, so the soundtrack is in that is quite really strong as well. So that's always, I feel like it's kind of important for me when considering like what is some of my favorite films. So
yeah, Huey Lewis of the news. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I interrupted you. I was just going to say one of my other favourite films, just lastly, It's a Wonderful Life. So that is a Christmas film. Yet again, I am obsessed with Christmas. And it just, I feel like it always makes me cry, but in that way of an aspect of thinking of life and actually what would it be like if I'm not on this planet, and what impact would that make on everybody else. And I think that's how the film predicts it and shows you as actually everyone's encounters with people are important and everything happens for a reason. And even in black and white, it's still absolutely beautiful. I think I've just like the really old-timey films.
Yeah, that 4K looks great too, by the way. Yeah. We're spoiled now.
Yeah, no, it's really great to how some of these things that, even though things that have so maybe seem so obscure, but they're getting these upgrades and the treatment they get and the care that gets put into them now. It's just like, yes, new lease on, like, you know, a fresh coat of paint, but it really does really benefit on some of these things. It's like amazing what they can do with the technology when they put the time and effort into with these boutique labels and everything. Yeah.
Now we're lucky to live in a time where we have access to things, but I mean, I know I've had times we talked about the FOMO, the limited edition stuff, and where it's like a double-edged sword. But you know,
absolutely.
Anywho, well, jumping back to kind of, you know, talking about some of those favorite films. What about some favorite people who are like involved in them, or maybe some like favorite actors or actresses? Do you have any of those people that you like to follow? Like, okay, well, clearly it's Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
Yeah,
Emma Stone is on the list.
On your list for sure.
Yeah.
James Stewart, for me, anything that he's in, I would love to have met him as a like person, an actor. I think everything he's in is just, apart from that one film we watched, done. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, it was the remake that Hitchcock did with The Man Who Knew
Too Much.
Yeah.
That was a bit of, it was
the one without Peter Lorre.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah,
that was the only one we were a bit disappointed, but everything else, Rear Window and everything like that, he's brilliant. For me, I would say Ryan Reynolds, but weirdly, I've not picked any of his films to say, apart from The Proposal. I would say was like my first one, and obviously he's a bit of a heartthrob. Deadpool is another really good one. He's a bit of a collective one where it's like some of them you're like, oh, I'm really looking forward to it, and then others you're like, oh, you're just Ryan, like you're not acting. You are. Voices is one where we've just recently covered it, and I remember this is an early stage relationship of ours where I was like, oh, the British cover of the Voices is of two, like a dog and a cat, and Ryan in the middle. So it looks kind of like a comedy. And obviously, I'm early stages. I didn't really like scary films or anything like that. I picked it up. My love of Ryan Reynolds with The Proposal and everything like that. I was like, oh, let's watch this. It's like, it looks quite fun. Not reading the back, because I never do that. Because I like a bit of a surprise. Put it on. Got to a point of where it kind of went downhill for me with the scenes. And we were in the middle of a woods and we're setting the scene where this woman kind of dies because of Brian. And I was like, no, I can't watch that anymore. And we had to stop watching it, didn't we? And you had to pick it up later.
I watched it. later on, and then years down the line, say like very recently did an episode like, right, let's come back to this to see if your opinions change. We can get past the 30-minute mark of that, and so it was quite interesting to like see again from how you've grown from you were back then to what you are now is a vast change of how you perceive and maybe tolerate certain films, I guess. But in terms of other actors and actresses, for me, I've got quite a few, but like ones that stand out for me are like David Thewlis, Tilda Swinton, Jack Nicholson, Christian Bale, Kirsten Dunst, and Laura Dern. I think she's collectively or thematically, or just she's all around from like Jurassic Park. I think that was like the strong connection. Like first film I kind of saw her in, and she always does a great performance in any of the body of work she does. I know she's done a lot with David Lynch kind of stuff. But I didn't get to those till quite later on into my more young adult stages before I can start into that. But even nowadays, she's still quite a powerhouse. Even in the Dominion one, it was like, yeah, I'm here for her really more so than anybody. But
I was there for Sam Neill and her, and I was like, this is like, oh wow, sorry, and obviously Jeff Goldblum, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Those are the only three I care about in that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, like Tilda Swinton, she's so diverse in any of the roles she does. It was a great performance. Especially, I think there's what's it called? Orlando. I don't know if you've seen that film.
I haven't. I have the Sony box set.
So that's the first time, like one of the first one I got from that box set, and she's diverse anyway, but that's on another level for her in terms of the various iterations she plays through that film. So I do recommend.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Like maybe this afternoon. Yeah, I love that. I love those different, all those people that you mentioned. Those are fantastic people. I was gonna say, when it comes to, I guess maybe directors, do you follow any ones in particular that you both enjoy, or is it?
Yeah.
I think collectively, nobly every Tarantino film we've watched has been a big hit. So you kind of like, I remember you said you really like Kill Bill as one of your favorites, in particular, and Pulp Fiction and stuff. That's the interesting style he's got, and you kind of vibe with that.
I do, which is surprising because I know my younger self would definitely not.
Not. For me, I really like Charlie Kaufman in terms of what he done. Obviously, another favorite from mine is Eternal Sunshine, and knowing that he wrote the screenplay for that and everything. And I think I've kind of got into, as I've gotten older, my younger self would probably not been too interested in what he's done. Obviously, he's sort of come out from, obviously at that age he wouldn't really have been something that been around anyway, but I've come to appreciate his directing style and the very few minimal films that he has done, but they've always been reached out to me. Like I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I really like that one, that kind of like that very horror vibe that it has going for it. And again, David Thewlis in that, and Toni Collette as well everybody in that does a really fantastic job, and the actors in that really works.
To see that.
Yeah.
I've read it. I've read the book, and it's a great book, but I not watched the film. I almost did. I almost did a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
But then something came up, so. But I will eventually. Now I'm like Orlando and that are on my list right now.
Yeah, I feel like that some of this, obviously it's because it was a post on Netflix, but I feel like that's something I feel like that should have a criterion. This, because I know The Power of the Dog, I haven't seen that, but I do want to see that. I know that's got a Criterion disc, but I feel like I'm thinking of any things could make it onto the Criterion shelf. In terms of other directors that we've collectively both like, is two that stand out are like Hayao Miyazaki films from the Studio Ghibli stuff, like I said, or anything that's of that caliber is normally a hit. But I say I'm like a big anime and animation person, so and introducing you to those.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's down to you actually. We actually were lucky enough to go to Japan, and anytime we talk about Studio Ghibli, we end up
the museum, so we had to book those really elusive tickets to get into that place.
It's only seen like 2 before I actually went, and then I've seen so many more coming back from the trip. But anything to do with Studio Ghibli, anything anime, and
the way storytelling, and
I think it's the way he draws it as well, and the nature of it. So everything's so beautifully done. It's just watching like this hand-drawn story, and the time and hours that was put into creating it as well when you actually watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's probably because we went to the tour and we saw it all that we know. So we appreciate it even more.
Yeah, I know. There's just something magical about it, and you just want to live in those worlds that he creates. Even if it can be sad at times.
But I don't think I'd want to live in the great time. Yeah, no,
not that time.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's got a fascination with World War II and planes, and you don't want to live around that time period.
Yeah, absolutely. But, another one it kind of sort of getting you into is like Wes Anderson films, the kind of quirkiness that he has to offer, with certainly more of his later films as well. You really like Grand Budapest Hotel, when we saw that for not too long ago as well.
Did put another one on last week, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep.
Yeah.
That's my phone background.
I haven't seen the Life Aquatic yet. That's something to cover, I think. But we watched. It was on the Disney Plus one, because they've got some of those on there. It's the Darjeeling Limited.
Yeah, that's a great one.
We I don't know if it was the frame of mind for that one, but it was
quite tired.
But it was like an hour and a half. I think, okay, that's I was one I wanted to check out, but I don't think it was in the right frame of mind. It was okay. It wasn't. I guess I was more used to what I expect from Wes Anderson film, like The Grand Budapest Hotel, or Moonrise Kingdom, or even like The French Dispatch, which I found that I don't think that was a bit too. I didn't know, that didn't click for me either. Just kind of
that one didn't.
What I've seen, but I feel like I expected a certain level from what Wes Anderson does, because I really like, my favorite one is like Fantastic Mr. Fox. Again, and that's just because of stop motion appreciation for that. But I really there's Wes Anderson quirks in that, obviously.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I think I watched that actually before I met you, because I did a photography degree. And obviously all that's like stop motion. So we went to the cinema, and we have to do our own stop motion in our uni course. Well, I think it was college course. And I was very creative. I created Forky, I swear. Like Toy Story 4, I feel like I should say. Because literally I had googly eyes, it had feet, it didn't have the arms, no. But literally that was my stop motion.
If you're hearing Pixar and Disney, you know who you know who to pay.
Well, Forky had a family though. That was where my storyline was going.
Forky had a family. I love stop motion. So yeah, that's my biggest like love of anything animated. Actually, when it comes, I guess it comes to that's that bridge between reality and animation. Like, right, is the stop motion stuff. But anywho, that's a whole thing. No, those are great directors, and I love all those directors too myself. So even if Darjeeling Limited wasn't something that like clicked, that one I just think that's like a little underrated. It kind of reminds me of Bottle Rocket, so it kind of reminds me of his like first movie.
I guess
ways.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was very colourful and everything. Obviously, with it set in India and everything, with all the colours they have anyway with that. But I don't know. There was just something about it, but maybe a different rewatch in the future would be maybe a second time viewing it would change my opinion on it a bit more. But it's still very good. It wasn't like no, I can't possibly tolerate this, seeing this ever again. But
I think you just went in with higher anticipations of it. Yeah, so you thought it was going to be. Yeah.
That's interesting too, because I mean, it's funny because I had watched Life Aquatic. That was like my first Wes Anderson film that I watched when I was very young. I was in my teens when that came out. And it was just like, this is not a movie I care about. And then eventually I would watch something like Moonrise Kingdom, and I'm like, this is a little too artsy fartsy, a little too quaint, or is a little too what's that word, precocious is. And so I didn't enjoy it until I randomly watched Grand Budapest one afternoon, and I just completely switched in my mind, and it was like, okay, I like this a lot, and I'm gonna rewatch those movies, and come to find out I love them. So Grand Budapest is my favorite. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's so colourful, but yet comedy in that it's really good. Which is quite weird for me to say, but I think it's like that realistic comedy. It's funny, it's cleverly thought out. It's not just somebody hitting the head with something,
which I also love. So
not in a cringy way. I think it's like not those Ben Stiller films where there's just over the top, like say bleeding or something, and it's like
exactly.
Although that does have that one spot where Willem Dafoe with like the cart and just flies. That is a little cartoonish. That is the cartoonish part of that whole thing, where he just falls off the cliff. So yeah. I guess this segues to, like, if either of you, or you might have, I hope we have different answers, but if you could be in a director's film or films, do you know if you would be in the background or like as the main character? What, which director would that be, and what would you want to do in that space?
I really like the work that Robert Eggers has done. Again, for a horror standpoint, I feel like I would probably enjoy being maybe not like front and center, but somebody who was kind of either got off or whatever, or just to be involved in the thing, because I really admire what he does in terms of his level of craft and everything like that. So for a horror to be like involved in a horror director's work like that would really be something, I think.
I love Robert Eggers, and I think you already know. So
yeah.
I'd say for me, I'd probably say a Hitchcock film, just because then I can be with
Stuart.
He's
got to be in it, or
I'm not going to be in it. Like Rear Window, I feel like the dialogue within such of those films is so intense, and it just keeps you on your toes. It's so snappy, and the visuals are still brilliant. Yeah. And the lining and everything like that. So even if I was a camera person or helping out with the costume design, like the clothes back then were just so much more beautiful than they are nowadays. They were just glamorous, wasn't it? So I think that would be more
like
now we all just wear t-shirts like me, so, instead of nice clothes that now seem expensive, I guess.
Vintage, I think is the word.
Like an Audrey Hepburn kind of, like when we watched Breakfast at Tiffany's, and she's eating a pastry with white gloves. That kind of style is just amazing.
So decadent.
Yeah.
Well, I love both of those answers. I honestly was thinking it's like put me in an animated film. I was gonna think you were gonna say Miyazaki or something. So that's awesome.
That could be an option as well. Yeah,
we have to join that one though.
Yeah. Be two characters.
Yeah.
Family.
So yeah.
Or in the anime, from Weathering with You, or your name, that kind of just a background character in that, something that caliber. Yeah.
I just love how there's background characters in that movie that are important for the other movie. That's what's cool about those movies in particular. So, which I need to rewatch those. I haven't seen those in a bit. So, but somehow I remember that. So, which means it's good. So, now we're coming to the difficult question, right? So, and I always like to ask if your life could be summed up into like a movie of some sort. If you were going to make a movie about your life, what title would you have it be called?
This one was tricky.
Yeah, it was very, very easy for me because of what I kind of do, but I came up with the title Drawn to the Movies. Sort of in the sense of, because I do like to draw and be involved with that, any sort of like level of that, even with the animation or the stop motion or whatever like that, that'd be involved. But I think I was drawn into the movies by my uncle, who was a big influence on that and collecting and stuff. So it works in both ways, I guess, really. And just even if it was to, if it was to put into like sort of like storyline or whatever, it was like, say like I was as I am now, but then became like a cartoon character and going through the beats of like going through some of the things that I like or something, maybe, I don't know, that would have like in an animated form, not specifically just from Studio Ghibli or any other animation for that matter, but I think that'd be a kind of a cool way to do it, and just get engrossed in like what I love about cinema. So I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah.
You had to help me, didn't you? And I was like, this is so hard. I was struggling. So I ended up being It's an Alright Life. So like a twist on a wonderful life. But then you kind of said this one sounded a bit better, which is my nickname is Duffin. So not as in like Duff beer, like from The Simpsons. It's spelled like Sophie, but instead you drop the S and replace it with the D. So it's like Dauphin. So you kind of said it sounds a bit French.
Yeah, like Dauphin work.
Dolphin.
Yeah.
Dolphin. Yeah.
And the reason behind why I'm called Duffin is I used to play fight with my dad when I was a lot younger. So it was like more like a beating up, and we called it like a duffing. Like
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, I don't know, I feel like I'd be a little bit like an action-packed, sassy,
like
independent,
like
woman.
Femme fatale type of thing, where we're just going around beating people.
Yeah. So that's what it would be.
Like a Tarantino style.
Like, or Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I was thinking more like when you were mentioning it, I was like, oh, it could be like a Greta Gerwig movie, or or it's like oh no, let's make it more violent. I like that. More Tarantino. I wonder how violent Barbie's going to be.
I don't. Part of me wants to see it because I've always been a big Barbie fan. Obviously, being a little girl, had Barbies. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
I don't know what the tone of it's really going for. This kind of thing. Like, I was kind of trying to see trailers of it, but I'm still like not quite sure like what's it going to be about and where's it going to go. But it should. I guess it's going to be sort of interesting because it's Greta Gerwig is on the helm of it.
Yeah, and Noah Baumbach has stuff involved in it as well, and obviously having Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling and that, and also like I think, trying to remember the other cast and crew that like popped up in that trailer that I was like, okay, wow, I didn't expect them to be there. But yeah, I'm excited. I think there's going to be mostly men there. We're going to watch this. We're going to watch this movie, which is wild to think about because obviously Barbie is, I guess in terms of historically more of a like a girl line of toys. So but
never had a Ken doll. It's quite funny actually because like, well, I always just had played with Barbies, but they were never in a relationship, were they? Because they never had a Ken.
No,
wasn't that imaginative to think that they could date one another at that stage?
Well, I mean, why would you want to date at that time? You're free. You can do whatever you want. You don't need to think about that. So come on. I love it. So I guess I love those titles. I think it's great to hear those different things, and I always love to hear it because it's just like there's like a personal aspect to it, obviously, and kind of just how you're drawn to it. Anyway, that's all right. See, I had to do it for that one too. So, anywho. As we're coming to a close, I like to always ask kind of how this medium in general has kind of affected both of your lives and how it's kind of structured your worldview and your outlook. So could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think what's kind of helped us, but both of us actually, especially with doing the podcast, is how much easier it is now to just have a conversation like we're doing right now with just a person you may not even have met or dreamed of, like to do or pluck up the courage to do, and just have a conversation about film or whatever it might be, whatever in your interests are. And obviously through Twitter and Instagram, we've had those conversations with people as well, and it's been great to build up a fan base from that, and just having other people on as guests and stuff like that. It seems for me particularly like such a shy, introverted person to have the goal or the notion to even approach people just over the computer and just like, do you want to talk about films for an hour and a half or whatever? And it's like, yeah, sure. And it's like, oh wow, okay. And I get to gush over a certain thing that's my favorite film, or just something that we depends what it is, like, oh, that was rubbish, wasn't it? And just like riff and rant about it and stuff. It's just so amazing that the time we're in now, and also like I say, we said about before about how easier access to some of these very obscure films that I would never have come across before. Obviously it helps having the money to put on those expensive sets and stuff, but it's like explore the whole range of cinema that's on my shelf, and it blows my mind like how far it's all come, and it's just been a great experience through and through, and it's something I know I'll keep enjoying as I go through life. And as new technologies, because I don't even know what the next one after 4K would be. But
I think that's obviously the format and everything, the way that we've gone from VHS, where you have to literally rewind your tape, to 4K being like kind of the highest medium that you've got at the moment, and that just looking absolutely amazing in comparison to like when you're looking at an older film and then being remastered, that kind of joy that you get from that. But also I think the other sad thing for me is I love the fact that you can watch something really quickly on the TV, like you've got Netflix, you've got Disney Plus, you've got all these platforms that you can get. But at the same time, I feel like your connection with a film isn't there as much sometimes when you're watching it at home. Compared to like a cinema, you have to get your popcorn, you're not allowed your phone on, so there's no distractions. I think we're in such a fast-paced life that you can just put something on and you're not actually fully
invested in the time. I'm guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll just put Twitter real quick, and then you've like, oh, I just missed that plot point or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's really bad for us sometimes, but it's really tricky sometimes to watch things at home. It's like, right, just put my phone over there. If you're right, I really want to dedicate the time to watch this film, and it's just like it's such a great experience to do when you go to the cinema. It feels like a treat to go and watch something that's on the big screen, especially those blockbuster films. Like recently, it was like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. To see that, I feel like that was deserving of.
And I think it's just the atmosphere. Everyone else is laughing at the same part. Then you get that odd chuckle when somebody's laughing, and you're like, "Oh, did I just miss something?"
Yeah,
so I didn't find
that
funny.
person, but
yeah,
didn't get to me, but yeah.
I think it's just you're all kind of coming together. Everyone is doing actually nothing, and they're just sat watching something and enjoying what they should be really.
Yeah. It's just like it goes back to that memory you mentioned of seeing The Shining with that, or sorry, not The Shining, of seeing Jurassic Park, in the cinema and with the orchestra. Obviously, that's more of a special particular memory, but just the notion of that environment being really playful, or sorry, being a very important part of the entire experience, because your focus is there, you're right, and you're attending to it more. So. There is that. I agree. I think that element is missing more. At least I think it's easier for us to talk about it since this is kind of our thing. But to like maybe the average person who goes to a movie, or maybe they're at home streaming or something, like I don't think it's as big a deal, or they don't. It's not like oh hey, Seinfeld's going to be on at this time. It's not that anymore. It's like you don't have that. And like, I mean, I guess Game of Thrones, and I guess recently Last of Us, and I'm sure there's other shows that once a week things happen,
They
which
do
is
that episodic, this is nice, because it builds a hype for the show, doesn't it?
exactly.
Which
you don't want spoilers either, so you kind of
you
avoid social media.
I remember that from when Game of Thrones was on, like we have to see this. Whatever else. Oh, did you see that? Oh,
yep. Stop talking.
It's really nice. So those things are few and far between, but like HBO does great stuff there. Like those event TV shows, some of the talk about, and it's really good. But like I say, it's not like the last other thing I can remember from TV series was like when the back end when Friends ended, and that was like the big thing when that was finally coming to an end. I think when people were tuning in for those kind of shows. That's one thing I can sort of remember from way back in the day. But
I think I used to do Big Bang Theory, so like I think that was on like every Tuesday or Thursday or something like that, and it would be religiously at like 9 o'clock. We'd be watching the Big Bang Theory, and you would literally sit down, and that would be what you would do. And you'd have adverts, so you'd go to the toilet in those adverts. Whereas now you just pause, and there's no restriction to it. You can just.
It's the same with like stream movies. Like, break this movie that's like 2 hours long. It's like, I just got to toilet real quick, have a snack, whatever.
It's a 5-hour affair.
But also like how people don't say for average stuff is like in terms of like streaming quality, people can just settle for whatever quality it is. Not everybody's after the highest quality stream or whatever or that. So but I feel like it's for me certainly like it's kind of important to see if I can get it the best quality possible. Then I want to see it that way because I feel like that kind of sometimes sours the experience a little bit. Like if you say like watch a really crappy quality on say like I don't know someone's uploaded to YouTube or something, it's like this doesn't look that great. I'm not really into this. But if it was looking a lot better and sharper, or just obviously rather than just compressed down to a small video size, then you get. I feel like you get more from it and you get more enjoyment. So like that's happened to me a couple of times in the past with certain things. Like Dr. Caligari, and that was one I hadn't seen it for years, and obviously it's on like one of those open source like free to view sites. I forget what it's called, but like that's on there, but it's like really like crap quality. It's like, well, I know it was an old film, but still, like I don't know what I'm looking at here. And so recently got the one from Eureka and the 4K, and that seeing that like the best quality. It's like, oh my god, it's amazing. Again, I've said before, like how certain things that can be mastered so well, and then brings new life to it for something that's so old, like over 100 years old. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're lucky to live in that time. So
yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you both for joining along this journey, and I had a really great time just hearing both from you and also meeting you both. You know, this is a good time. So I hope you had a good time with this.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Flown by. I love talking to people and getting to know them and just speaking about a film. And I feel like it's one of those things that you just connect. And I feel like we've not spoken before this, but I feel like I know you now.
Right?
Yeah.
That's great. I was going to say, I hope to do this again sometime, in some capacity, either on podcasts or on my channel or whatever. I'd love to. So
definitely
get that together. But do you have any final thoughts about this whole thing, or where people can find you as well?
I have a question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
So I put a spanner in it, and obviously you can have a think. And I don't know if I've missed it, and you've already been asked this before. Do you know what your life movie title would be?
I think I have answered this before, so but I didn't write it down, so it's gonna
it might change.
Yeah. You know what? I think it would have to be something to do with my last name. I am weirdly proud of the fact that I'm a Jones, and which is strange to hear because of the fact that it's so common, I think it even has like a Welsh, background.
There's a lot of Jones in the UK.
Yeah.
I actually went to school with a Nathan Jones, but obviously it wasn't you.
Yeah, and they're Australia too, because obviously they got the Australian wrestler Nathan Jones, and I knew a Nathan Jones growing up as well, besides myself. I don't know. It would be maybe something Jones. I don't know, because the other thing too about that is I love putting a silly nickname in front of it. It's like, oh yeah, you remember X-Files Jones? Or do you remember someone would say something just really weird and it's like and then you can just like put that in front of your name. It's like, oh yeah. It's like I'm blanking on it now. It's like, oh, you remember Microphone Jones right here? Like somehow it works. And I don't know.
Calling Dr. Jones.
Yeah, my nickname in high school was Dr. Jones because I was a big Indiana Jones fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, thanks for asking that question. Yeah, I was gonna say that's my thought at the moment is something Jones. So
I like it. I did put you on the spot. We did have time to think about it, so it wasn't very fair.
yeah. Well, luckily well, maybe not so much because I put my foot in my mouth a lot, but I am a very external processor. So usually I can come up with something quick, but I mean, obviously there are better things that come later when I'm like, if I think about it for a little bit. So, but yeah. Well, thank you. I was going to say, any other final thoughts you want to say before we head out?
No, I'd say it was just a great experience to say, like, go through and have a proper think about like what was certain things I remember from my childhood and things like that, kind of reflect back on. And obviously, as we've been talking, like, oh, I remember that instance as well from things. It's just kind of like a throwback to how things have progressed for, I guess, for both of us. Really.
Yeah.
And so it's been like fun to think about that. And obviously, I like talking about like what favorite films are, because that always intrigues me. Like when you go on Letterboxd and like seeing what people's top 4 on that, and so like that kind of tells you like their personality. I think that's another thing I do like about the community as well, when you're adding people and it's like, oh, let's see what they really like or what they've been watching. And kind of I feel like sometimes people can like twist like my like, oh well, I do like that film, but maybe I should like it a bit more, kind of thing. Or people like say like maybe yourself, Nathan, when like you're talking about films that you bought in, it's like, oh, maybe I should get that. Maybe I should buy that and be influenced by that a little bit. The same with other people on the YouTube community as well for that. But anyway, I digress. It's just been a lot of fun talking about films. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to say we like to enable each other in our
yeah, definitely. But lastly, I think if I say we want to say where we're based or where they can find us. So.
Yeah,
that's normally your job on the podcast.
So we're on social media, so if you do want to find us, we're under the handle SP_film viewers. So we're on mainly Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. So you can go over there and like, subscribe to all that comment stuff that you're into do.
That's right.
All that stuff right down there.
Yeah. So, and I say like we're on the other podcast platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever else. Podbean is the one where we're hosted on. But any sort of, if you do like the show, if you ever listen to some of all the episodes that we've got a whole collection of stuff. But if you do enjoy the show, just obviously do follow us on there, subscribe and just give us a 5-star review on any of those platforms as well. That would obviously help boost the numbers and get us seen by more people in the community, because as I say, we do like talking about films with people and always happy to have guests on. So obviously that extends to you, Nathan, as well. If at any point you want to come and talk about any particular films that you want, then more than welcome to.
Yeah, just let me know what works best and we'll figure it out. I'd love to.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you again, both Paul and Sophie, for joining SP Film viewers, for everyone else. Links are down in the description. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. And as always, this has been so much fun. Like I have so much fun every time I do these things, and I get to meet a lot of really great people. So I can't wait to listen to more of your podcasts and also be a part of one someday. And I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation. Let us know what you think down in the comment section down below. Tell us our horror stories of some of the things that we just mentioned. Rate our movie names and stuff. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, hit the notification bell, all that other stuff. And I will see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.